What if it rained food? What if Earth was a cube? What if we had 9 lives? What if bits could fly? It's absurd. If money grew on trees, if we didn't have knees, if we walked through life slightly magnetical, it's absurd. Absurd Hypotheticals.
Hello everybody and welcome to Absurd Hypotheticals, the show we overthink dumb questions so you don't have to. I'm your host Marcus Lehner, and I'm joined here today by Chris Yee and Ben Storms. Say hi, guys.
Hey, I'm Chris.
Hey, I'm Ben.
And now that we're back from Ben taking forever to eat breakfast so that we could record.
Hearty breakfasts are important.
What was your hearty breakfast?
It's eggs and toast. It wasn't like super hearty, but it was relatively hearty.
Okay, we're moving on.
Yeah, that's fair.
We got a good one today. Our question is, what if everyone lost their memory every day? So we went back and forth a few times on what exactly this means and how it happened. And we ended up saying everyone in the world at midnight Eastern Standard Time, because that's where we are, loses their memory.
So because we went over a few options and we said that maybe it's tied to sleep. So when you go to sleep, it happens. But then it happens, if we go with that, then it happens for everyone at a different time because there's people in different time zones.
Yeah, same thing of doing it midnight in each time zone. And then we started talking about, potential solutions. And we're like, well, then you can just kind of piggyback information via the internet or a pen pal. And you have someone who's a few hours off of your schedule to kind of, keep the memory things. It solved a lot of the memory problems in a kind of uninteresting way.
Yeah, we decided that the point of this question is to force people to reset every day. So everyone resets at the same time. It's midnight Eastern Standard Time.
It's very inconvenient in, non-US places, but you know what? They'll have to deal with that.
Yeah. We hardly know those places anyway, ever. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just basic. Oh, you lose your memory. We'll do it as of today.
So you remember everything before today.
Yeah, remember everything before today, but then starting today, every day into the future, you don't remember anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Chris, I think you went into the first few days after it happened. So I'm gonna let you start.
Yeah. So I mainly looked into how I wanted to see how long would it take for us to realize that this is happening. And then how long would it take for us to actually do something about it once we realize it? Because obviously if we're forgetting things, then we're going to forget that it's an issue, even if we do realize it. So the first indicator of this is happening, I figured was the date. So if you look at the date and you realize that it's skipped, then you'd be like, wait a minute, did I miss something? And that'll be the first check mark that something is wrong.
I like the idea that it's like Wednesday morning, everyone comes into work and they're like, man, I feel like Tuesday just flew by, right? Don't remember it.
Yeah. The thing is, how often do you actually check the date? Because I don't really check the date that often.
Every day. I check the date,
Really? You check the date every day?
Do you have work appointments or calls or, anything
I usually just
scheduled
know,
in your life?
I usually just know what's coming up. So I know, I go on a week-by-week basis. I'm like, okay, Friday, this is happening.
My wife and I do have a page-day calendar with dogs on it. So does that count? I feel like that counts.
Maybe.
We do technically acknowledge the fact that it is a new day every day.
Okay, so you guys check the date more than I do, I guess.
But we also do just miss the calendar sometimes, so we wouldn't be that surprised if... Yeah.
Yeah, there are dates the weekends and things where I don't check the date, and if it was if it's I thought it was Thursday for half of today, that's fine, but it's not the norm for me.
Right. And then I was thinking when I do check the date, how often do I actually question if the date is correct?
Yeah.
Probably not very often. So in the short term, if you just skip a few days, you might not notice because it's only a few days, and you'd be like, oh, maybe I just had the date wrong before. Obviously, once the term gets longer and you skip a month, then it'll be more obvious.
Right.
But short term, it's not going to be a big deal. So I think there's going to be a grace period where people don't actually realize that the date has skipped. I was looking at what would be an indicator of the fact that a date has skipped, because we people pay attention to dates more during important dates, and you have important dates spread out throughout your life just here and there. but the collective important dates that everyone shares are holidays. So the United States has 10 national holidays. There's New Year's, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, President's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Columbus Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. Now, the longest gap between those holidays is between President's Day and Memorial Day on February 17th and May 25th. That's 98 days between those two.
It's a dark time.
Yeah, it's a dark time for everyone. Now, I guess it's possible that you go in between these two holidays without realizing that the date is skipped. I don't think it's likely, though. I ended up averaging the gap between holidays just to figure out like an average of if you're basing your realization that the date has skipped on holidays, then the average gap is 28 days between holidays. So that's kind of like the maximum, I would say, is before you realize. But I do think the grace period will be shorter than if you're just basing it on dates, because obviously there's more stuff going on than just the calendar date. Like if you're going to work and you're doing your work and then you forget that you did your work and you come back the next day and it's already done, then...
Oh, that's so great. I love this already.
Yeah, then that's great. On the flip side, if this happens during the weekend and you think it's the weekend and then a day passes and you think it's the weekend again, and then another day passes for like a whole week, you think it's the weekend, and no work gets done at all, obviously the society, like all of society is going to kind of crumble slowly if that happens because people aren't going to do work.
We've covered a few times about if everyone stopped working. I think that might have been actually one of our questions, if everyone stopped working for a week.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
So literally that question, and you end up losing power very quickly. Sanitary systems back up very quickly. Food distribution and things along those lines also collapse, like on the order of weeks as opposed to months.
Yeah.
So people need to work.
People need to work, but it's less likely it'll happen on the weekend because there's obviously 5 days versus 2 days. And then it's going to be a much bigger deal on the other side of the world, as we mentioned, because for at midnight Eastern Standard Time on the other side of the world is noon. So people are just going to be in the middle of doing stuff. They're going to be like eating lunch, and then they're going to forget what they're doing.
What is 12 hours apart from us?
I don't know exactly from Boston. We can look at a map. Are you looking at a map?
Time zone map.
I am also Googling that. Let's see. All right.
I am not, because I'm trusting you guys to do it.
That's foolhardy, but we'll survive.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Wait,
8, 9, 10.
Why are you counting? There's numbers on this.
Well, shut up.
Ben found a better map, apparently.
Just go to +7. +7 is weird.
Oh, is it like one of the really tiny ones?
Well, no. So +7 is like, so it looks like China is all +8, and it goes through the middle of the +7. And also, for some reason, there's a stretch. Wait, what is happening? Okay, so a lot of what is +7 is like, so there's like a chunk of Russia, like a middle chunk of Russia, and then like I see like Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia. Yeah, but then like China cuts across it, and then also like part of India cuts across it. And then also there's a part that's 5.5 that's in the middle of it. I don't know. There's a lot going on here.
So we'll just say Russia. We'll say Russia. That's the safe bet, probably.
Like a third of Russia.
A third of Russia. So they're going to be eating lunch, and they're going to forget that they're eating lunch.
I mean, also, whether it's +7 or +8, like 1 o'clock and noon really doesn't make too much of a difference.
Yeah.
Like, also, all of China is going to be at 1 o'clock.
Well, yeah,
They
this is
will
true.
have also forgot that they had eaten lunch.
Yeah.
People in +6 probably wouldn't have eaten lunch yet, so they'll remember lunch.
Can we back up for a second and say there's a tiny part of Australia that's +8 3/4 from GMT, which, what the fuck?
What?
8 3/4.
Yeah.
Well, half of it's +9 and a tiny bit. It's a third of it. Oh, no.
No,
That little
it's
tiny.
just that tiny, there's, so the middle section of Australia is 9.5. The western section of Australia is 8. But then there's a tiny section at the, like, bottom right of that 8 section that's 8 3/4. And I have no idea what the possible reasoning for this could be.
Anyway.
Sorry, yeah. Time zones are weird.
Little
yeah.
tangent there. With all this in account, I figured that since like people are realizing this in the middle of the day on the other side of the world, it's going to speed up this process. It's going to shorten the grace period where people realize it. But I do think it's still going to take like a few days, maybe a week. I said a week. I just said a week is a grace period until people realize that this is happening. And once they realize it, they're going to start spreading it on social media, and it's going to spread really fast. So once people know, pretty much everyone will know. And then once we figure it out, even though we lose our memory in the next day, it's all saved on social media. So we don't have to relearn anything. Well, we do have to relearn stuff in the morning, but we don't have to like go through that whole grace period process again.
Does this just mean that people get like even more sherry on social media just so they remember what they did themselves?
Probably.
Damn it.
It's like based on my post, we ate pasta yesterday.
I mean, social media is like the only continuous thing connecting us between the days, so it's a very valuable
also
tool.
anything written down or stored.
Yeah, people might just
Digital.
keep diaries, probably, actually, with a lot of it.
But social media is like shared from everyone.
Well, yeah.
Everyone's connected. So now that we know what the issue is, I want to see like how much time would it take us to find a solution for it. Because if we work towards finding a solution, we're going to lose all of our progress the next day. And like we'll have to, like I said, we don't have to relearn through the grace period, but we do have to relearn stuff in the mornings. And that takes a part of the day too. So when do most people actually check social media? Because that's going to be how we learn that this has happened. It varies from platform to platform, but it averaged out to around 10 a.m. is when most people check social media, or when they engage in it's like the global engagement of social media. So that's 10 hours of the day that have already passed once people look at their phone and know what's going on. And it'll probably take like an hour or two to actually for them to process it. So that's already half of the day is gone. So it's like, okay, we have half of the day to work with to come up with a solution. How fast does our government actually work at getting stuff done?
It's known for its blazing speed.
Yeah, I know. So I found some statistics. There's this guy that went to congress.gov and went through the public records for the laws that have been passed. I could have technically done this myself for 2019. It just would have taken a long time because it's not really set up to do this. You just have to do it manually and it would take a long time. But this guy already did it for 2015. So I just took the 2015 numbers. And he found that the average number of days from them introducing a bill to it becoming a law, the average number of days was 263 days. That's not boding well for us. But within all the laws that have been passed, there was one law that was passed within only one day. I don't know what their naming scheme is, but it was named HJ Res 131. Don't really know what that means.
House Judicial.
House Judicial Resolution 131.
Yeah.
By the 115th Congress, 2017-2018. Providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Federal Communications Commission related to restoring internet freedom.
That one?
Did you just search it? Is that it?
I googled HJ Resolution 131.
Yeah, sure, that one.
It's called Providing for Congressional Disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Federal Communications Commission relating to, quotes, restoring internet freedom.
Ah, you were so close to one breath in that.
Well, the quotes are important. I have to pause for quotes because that's literally the only thing in the title that makes any sense.
Okay, fair. Yeah.
So there is this one that has passed in only one day. It is unlikely to happen right away, though, for us to pass like a law in one day to like solve this problem, because we won't have realized how serious the problem actually is right away. There will be a tipping point though, because things will start to get worse and worse and worse, and then eventually it'll be like, okay, things are really bad, we got to speed things up. And we won't see the gradual progression of things getting worse. We'll wake up thinking everything is fine in the morning, and then we'll just realize it's not.
I mean, that's my day to day. I wake up in the morning thinking everything is fine, and then I realize
welcome
it's not.
to life.
So once we actually realize that things are really bad, it'll sort of, well, so that'll be like the legislative period. I think we'll get stuck in a legislative period. So we had the grace period in the beginning, and then this is the legislative period. We're trying to get things done. And eventually, once things get really bad, and because all this will be recorded on social media, how slow the legislation is and how unsuccessful it is, I think eventually we're going to decide to abandon the structure of our government just to make things happen faster. And I predict that this will happen in like a month or so. A month after we realize that we were losing our memories. So the grace period is a week, legislative period is a month. And then after that, we need some sort of entity of power. And I figure that we'll prioritize a lot of our resources into like video production, because video producers and video editors are very valuable now, because I think that's how we're going to like consume our information in the morning, just to learn that this is happening via 51st Date style. Like you watch a video and it just summarizes everything. So video producers will gain power, and I think this will become our movie period. The grace period, legislative period, and the movie period. But eventually I think there'll just be too much news to catch up on. Like we can't summarize. We only have a certain amount of time every day in the morning to learn this stuff, and you're going to have to condense everything down, and eventually it's going to be too much. So I think eventually global news will become less important. We'll focus more on local news. Local news will be more relevant. And then like personal stuff. So like personal videos will become top priority just to maintain your own life. Just get day to day. Like I did this yesterday, so now I have to do this today, sort of thing. So it'll be like short videos, and you're not going to only watch your videos. You're going to want to like know what your friends and family are doing, all your loved ones. And if you're interested in anyone, if you want to keep up with anyone, you can follow them and just learn what they did. So everything added up, the grace period is a week. The legislative period is a month. The movie period, I said once we get to that point with the personal videos, I think that's like a year after. So that's a year. And at this point, we're basically just all vloggers, like just share on YouTube, and people are following each other.
Everyone's liking and subscribing.
Yeah, everyone's liking, subscribing, everything that they want to follow, and we'll just be vloggers.
What a horrifying dystopia.
Well, it gets a little worse. I think that picture's even a little bit optimistic.
Oh no.
Yeah. Marcus, where did you bring us?
So I was looking a bit into like the because I think it is the way you do it is the 51st Date style, video of yourself. So yeah, the government's gonna have like their announcement. I think it's gonna be the first thing in the morning. I think it's just gonna be the homepage of all the internet browsers. It's gonna be like if you log on to the internet, it's like, hey, this shit's going down. Here's the down low on the world now. But yeah, it doesn't solve your personal situation. And I think one of the interesting thing about these self videos is that at first they're gonna be terrible. Like your video to yourself is gonna be terrible because like you have to imagine how stressful it is to cope with the world being in like this crazy situation. And like, yeah, so you're making this video and you're probably still in a panic state, and you're going to probably forget a lot of things that you would want to tell yourself to get yourself through the day. But at the same time, if your video sucks in the morning, you're going to be like, man, that video was shit. I need to make a new video. And you'll improve it. So it's almost going to be like a generational like evolution type deal where your video is going to get better and better and better as time goes on. So at best case, yeah, you get yourself to a point where you've gotten your, getting yourself to work figured out. You've got your chore, wheel scheduled out to, to have the right videos going. And you probably have to spend a good amount of time figuring out the best way to make yourself not panic in the morning. Especially like looking at the more like the midterm when you wake up and you're, 10 years older than you thought you were, or like 20 years older, or, you're in a different place, for example.
I figure probably near the end of the day, you're going to realize how much time you wasted in the morning and be like, I don't want to do that tomorrow.
Yeah, and so you try to improve, and you're like, okay, I know you're going to want to like run and call mom, but no, get your ass dressed and go to work, because that's important. You need to do that, or else the society collapses.
Yeah.
But so even so, I think it's somewhat optimistic. There's a lot of ways it can break. First off, it's not quite a Groundhog Day scenario, because things won't be exactly the same every day. So you can't like generate this exact perfect set of words and phrases, interactions that make your day work out the same every time. Like, what if you end up moving somewhere, or what if you're sick that day, or what if you're snowed in on that particular day, and like now your whole schedule and everything's thrown off. So outside factors can definitely mess with what you expect your routine to be the next day. So that's probably going to give you some bad days. But I think even more than that, personalities come in to this a lot, I think. Because again, this is a really, when you get down to this is a very stressful thing to have happen. Like, this is a apocalyptic level thing that has happened to the whole world, and there's like, it's not getting, the actual hypothetical is not getting fixed. So if you're a person who has a tough time dealing with just the stress of the situation, like if it's just not in your nature to cope well with, getting this news, the amount of time it takes you to calm down can put you really far into the day, and it's not going to get much better because it's going to be a fresh trauma every single morning, which is really just not good news. Because even if you're able to handle it, like the long-term effects of stress are obviously not good. Besides, depression, anxiety, all the emotional things, it could also lead to like heart conditions, obesity, gastrointestinal issues. So there's going to be a lot of that going around. Not super great. And even if you can get over the shock of all this fairly easily, it doesn't mean you're going to be a productive member of society. Like, I can easily see if your inclination to this is just be like, wow, this is really bad. I kind of just need to take the day and figure things out.
I feel like a lot of people are going to do that.
Yeah, if that's your inclination, which is not a crazy thing to say, you're not getting anything done. Like, that's it. You're just like kind of out of the game.
But then I feel like once you do that a bunch of times, you'll realize it.
But it's fresh every day. So that's your natural inclination. Like, yeah, not everybody, like some people will be like, give themselves a video, be like, no, kick yourself out of the house. But like some people just won't ever get over it.
Yeah, I guess so.
Or your reaction might be, well, if everyone forgets everything every day, I can do whatever I want. And now we're talking about crimes.
That's not good.
There's going to be a lot of crimes that you can get away with because people just won't remember the next day that they happened. But I started going down that path of seeing what the best crimes were that you could do, every day and not get caught and kind of make it out. But what I actually thought was more interesting is, what if you're caught? So say like, you get caught that day, or an investigator keeps a good set of notes and, has a video and proves that you've done a burglary or something. It's going to be weird because, first off, you're not going to remember your crime at all. Like, I assume that people, I'm imagining someone who wasn't a, criminal, and they wake up and this crazy thing happens and they're like, whoa, my whole world has changed. I'm going to start doing crimes now. That sounds a little unbelievable. I think that's a realistic thing to think. So you're gonna get accused of a crime that you literally did yesterday. The cops are gonna come and the cops will see the video. They'll come and arrest you and accuse you of a crime that you literally did yesterday, but you don't remember it at all. You just don't remember it. So of course you're gonna vehemently deny it. And like, imagine trying that case. Like, it's gonna be weird for the judges and the juries too, because they know exactly what situation you're in. Like, everyone's under a lot of stress. They know you don't remember doing it. At the end, theoretically, if no one mentions it for like 24 hours and like, whatever, depending on if there's financials going around or something, they get moved back and no one mentions it for a whole day, it'll be almost like it never happened.
You'll still have the video, though.
Right, but like, if you just delete the video.
I guess it's pretty easy to do that.
But here's the thing. The thing is, it did happen, and it also shows you have the capacity to commit more crimes in the future. So it's kind of like Big Brother-y, like future crime. Not Big Brother, because Big Brother doesn't have future crimes in it, I don't think. But what's the movie with the
Minority Report?
Yeah, like the future crimes. Because you did it, and maybe it was just that particular day, but you are now someone that is, is like, hey, I might just do crimes when I wake up, and there's not going to be much changing your motivations going there. So, do they put you in jail? Like, if you get put in jail, now every day you're waking up in a cell, and you have no idea why you're in the cell. You don't remember committing a crime. As far as you know, you're not the type of person to do that. And so now, like, you wake up in the jail cell, and now, of course, everybody in jail, everybody in jail is going to be like, well, no, I didn't do it. It's just going to be, a cacophony of people declaring their innocence because they literally don't remember. But at the same time, you're probably better off than a lot of people still if you're in jail, because at least you don't have to figure out like working or your food or, that's going to be systemized.
You just have time to cope. You just have coping time all day.
Yeah, you have coping time all day. And I think because of how stressful it would be in the prison, like to wake up like in your typical jail cell, I think they might make them like, instead of jails, like, more like facilities where that are a little bit nicer so that, there's less of a emotional impact when you wake up and you're suddenly there for something that you don't remember doing. Mm-hmm. So so I think maybe one of your best bets might be just to do, like, if your life is not, conducive to doing this forget every day, like if you are a, self-employed person and you have to like find, new jobs and, find new contracts and then do those contracts and things like that require like ongoing maintenance by yourself. That's very hard to do in this world. The best might just be to crime and get arrested And maybe we all just end up like in this like Wall-E level, like, oh, you're just in your, your tech chair that does everything for you, and you just like, live your life away.
I mean, not everyone can be in jail.
Well, if we have enough robots we can be.
Man, you guys are real downers about all this.
Hey, I just said we become vloggers.
Yeah, that's worse.
I say we ended up in Wall-E world, which I think is very, very. We got there a different way, but we did it. We can all live in a big cruise ship in space, except it won't be in space; it'll be on the ground. But it could be nice. Well, it won't be on the ground; it'll probably be in the water because that's how cruise ships work. But
wait, is it literally a cruise ship now? Wait.
Well, it's a cruise ship it's a space cruise ship in Wall-E,
no,
right?
No, I mean like your jail idea.
It could be, man. If you're gonna make it nicer and nicer,
Jail
I wouldn't mind
cruise.
a cruise ship. Jail cruise. It's an evolving concept, man. It's evolving.
Are you saying that Alcatraz is effectively a cruise ship?
Ooh.
Yes.
All right then.
Top that, Ben. Top your own joke with your answer.
So these guys are real downers, as I have established, and they have established.
To be fair, it's usually you and Chris who are the downers.
Well, yeah, this is true.
I'm the practical guy. I'm the guy that makes the dinosaur clean gutters.
You once launched snakes out of tubes as confetti and said that was a good idea.
That is not a downer. That's a good idea. Snake confetti.
Okay, I was fighting against the practical thing, but you know what? Anyway, let's move on. I want to look at how this would work long term. And part of that means I'm going to kind of assume that we reach some kind of stable society where people haven't necessarily accepted what's happening because it's kind of hard to because you reset, but where at least we've figured out how to how to sustain a society going forward.
Right, like it's like the end of 50 First Dates. Where they're on the ship in the middle of the ocean.
They're in a cruise.
Why are there cruise ships everywhere?
But the governmental announcement video has hit the right tone of informative yet comforting, and then your personal video is in good shape that you can wake up and be ready to function at a certain time, I imagine.
Yeah. So really, what I care about is mostly there are a lot of very complicated jobs that people do that have a lot of different conscious tasks involved in them that require a lot of memorization, really, which we obviously can't do now. So my question is really, how can we make those jobs work? So sort of to start, I want to talk about implicit versus explicit memory, which we kind of briefly talked about in the parameters. Basically, there's two kinds of long-term memory. So there's explicit memory, which is what we're losing here, which is all of your conscious information, previous experiences, concepts, that kind of stuff. So it's everything that you have to think about to recall. Implicit memory is something that you acquire and use unconsciously. So it's things like riding a bike. It's, people talk about how it's like riding a bike. Literally is something where once, when you first start riding a bike, you have to, think about all the parts of it. But as you do it more and more, eventually you can just hop on a bike and do it.
It's like when you're in a car, you don't think, I'm going to push the pedal now. I'm going to spin the wheel now.
Exactly. So, and there's also other things too. One of the ones I thought was really interesting that I found is apparently chess at a high level, a lot of it is implicit memory, where high level chess players, a lot of it is pattern matching and things like that, where they don't consciously, go through all the pieces on the board. They can actually look at a board and see clusters of pieces and sort of intuit the situation without actually having to explicitly
Really
go through the possibilities.
That's interesting.
Which is awesome, right? That's really cool. Which also gave me a lot of hope for trying to make these things work. If you think of something like chess, that is a very complicated game. I figured, you could find similar avenues for other activities as well. One other interesting thing that I saw, so for the most part with chess and riding a bike, there are things where you start out as something where it's explicit, where you know, okay, I have to do X, X, and X, and as you do it more, it becomes implicit. Something that doesn't actually do that is typing. So there was a study that these researchers did where they basically had the participants do a short typing test, and then they gave them a blank keyboard layout and told them to write the letters in the correct location. And the idea was that someone who is a really good touch typist will be able to know where all the letters are because they have to, they must, because they can type without looking at the keyboard. But it turns out there's actually like no link between being able to type well and knowing where the keys are. And what they did as they kept doing research, they found out that with typing, we never actually know where the keys are. Like even when you start learning to type, if you're trying to do touch typing, you never actually look at the keys and memorize where they are. It's something that's entirely implicit the entire time, which is fascinating.
Yeah, I was just thinking when you said like the test, like if you fill out a blank keyboard, if someone asked me to do that, I'd be like,
well, I can do QWERTY.
yeah,
Got
I'm like,
that one.
QWERTY I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I could definitely not, like definitely the bottom row is just
Right, yeah. You have no idea.
The whole right side.
Yeah,
of
the right side.
keyboard, I have no idea.
No idea. So that gave me some that also, helped me out here, because one of the things I was concerned about was that we would have to, if there is a process where you have to sort of memorize things and then from there learn them implicitly, how is that going to work if your memory gets reset every day? But there are at least some things where you don't actually do that, where it skips over your explicit memory entirely. So we do have some hope with regards to learning. And on that note, there was also a thing I found. There was this guy back in the like mid 20th century, this guy Henry Molaison, who he was born in 1926, and he had epilepsy. And because this was early 20th century medicine, they decided to give him a bilateral medial temporal lobectomy, which is exactly as bad as it sounds. And it kind of did, but it also made it so he couldn't form any new memories, which is probably a worse side effect. But what's interesting is that even though he couldn't form memories, he still had a lot of really memory-like things he could do and learn. So one of the things that happened was he moved to a new house 5 years after his surgery. So definitely in the time where he wasn't forming memories. And a few years later, he was able to basically make a map of the layout of his house just from having walked through his house so many times, even though he didn't actually have memories of doing it. There's a time where they basically, he over time learned to solve a maze, like not a, drawing between lines maze, but like an actual physical maze without ever remembering going through it. He learned to draw figures by looking at their reflection in a mirror. He was able to do all these different skill tasks that he didn't know before he stopped being able to form memories. So what we know from this is that any sort of complicated process, if we can figure out a way to hit one of the types of implicit memory, we can eventually learn how to do them even without being able to form memories other than that.
That'd be crazy to do a maze and
just think you did it on the first
time
try.
you did it.
Right, yeah. I know, that was the one that just absolutely blew my mind, where it was like, how does that feel where you just walk through a maze and every turn is right?
Feel amazing. Amazing.
Hey, you did it.
It's probably just like deja vu, but like constant.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or you could learn to play piano and never, every time you sit down on the piano, you just play.
Wait, shit, that's just us that's the thing when you go to work and you just like, you ever like zone out and you're like suddenly just there?
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. If you have it's things you don't think about them, but you just learn them.
We've all solved the maze of Boston, guys. That's impressive. That's good. We're talented.
The question is, what types of implicit learning could we actually use to like do these complicated tasks? There are really 5 main types that people sort of see. A couple of them are not that useful. So there's priming, which is like pattern completion. It can be, but a lot of them are more like, a lot of the examples they gave are more sort of word related. So like one of the ones they gave is that if you're telling someone to like trying to get someone to recognize a word, the word nurse is recognized more quickly following the word doctor than following the word bread. That was the exact example they gave. Those things were like, you've heard about where if you take a word and replace a bunch of the characters with like stars, people will still be able to know what the word is, just because they see the pattern,
Yeah, that's another interesting thing too, is that once you've learned to read, that you don't read the individual letters anymore, you just recognize what words look like.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Like if I'm looking at the word week, I'm not like W-E-E-K, that spells week. It's just like, week looks like this shape, and I just know what week looks like.
Yeah. So I don't know how useful that is to like, what I was trying to think of is how do you run a nuclear plant? I don't know if priming is a lot helpful there. One of the ones that could be helpful is emotional learning. And this is where we do get a little bit dystopic, maybe a little bit. So emotional learning is basically you will associate emotions with reactions and stimuli. So sort of the example that I saw for this was if you were afraid of dogs but you can't explain why, and it's probably because you had some, incident in the past you don't remember, but you just have this intrinsic fear of dogs. This is actually a thing that there are some places where it's not like necessarily intentionally done, but one of the ones I've heard is that so emotional learning, that emotional response is much faster than obviously, thinking through your response. So in the NFL, high level like quarterback play, they will have an actual like endorphin reaction to seeing like an open receiver. I know it's absurd. It's one of those things just for
like, ooh, yes, so open.
I know it sounds weird and unfortunate, but like it is, an actual real thing. And you could, with some sort of creepy, once again, big brothery conditioning, train people to basically recognize that things are bad without knowing why they're bad, and recognize the things they do that make them feel good that are helpful. So, sorry, I'm explaining this really badly. My notes are quite bad here, actually, because I was hoping I would figure it out as I was going.
Well, maybe if you got like hit on the wrist every time you made shitty notes, your notes would be better.
I know, right? If I had an emotional response to having bad notes. But basically the idea is that, so what I was trying to figure out was how do you control something without knowing why you're controlling it, basically, right? Does that make sense at least?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the way I see it with like a nuclear power plant is you'd have, an array of lights basically that as they go red, whoever's working it has just learned that that's a bad thing and, we need to fix this. And when you fix this, you just have, buttons or dial. I mean, as I say, it is basically how probably you run a nuclear power plant now. But instead of having, someone say, oh, the pressure is rising and that's bad because the boiler could explode. Not boiler, but, something could explode. It's, oh, that light is red and I don't like this. I'm going to hit this button to make it be less red.
So does there have to be a like something to make you feel bad to kind of train you? Does that training have to be ongoing? Like, does the alarm have to go red and then just be like, you're a piece of shit?
I mean, I guess
all the alarms are just like insults at you, and depending, or like compliments, and depending on whether they're good or bad, you have responses.
I like this idea a lot. I actually like the idea that it's just, there's another, where it's actually a job creation thing, where it's just a person who stands behind you who yells at you when the things go red, and then like gives you a back rub when the things stop being red.
Wait, no, you can't have a guy. You can't have a guy do it because you have to train that guy doing one to yell at you. So then you
no, he just
So he sees a red light.
He just has there's a sign above the panel that says red light equals yell, no light equals back rub, and he just looks at that all day.
This seems like something we could automate with, I don't know, a machine or a tiny speaker.
Yeah, but they're not making new jobs. We're trying to encourage the economy here, Marcus.
Oh my god.
So yeah, I mean, I guess I was afraid. My real fear coming out of this was that we wouldn't be able to train people to, do these kind of careers. But because it looks like implicit learning is something we can still actually use to develop skills, we should be able to actually function relatively well as a society, assuming we can get past the whole, everyone getting super depressed and going to jail portion that apparently exists.
It's a cruise, though.
It's a cruise.
Can't be that bad.
That we're going to be vlogging about.
Yeah.
God, this sounds awful.
Yeah, so conclusion, nuclear power plants yell at you. Everybody lives on a jail cruise ship, and they all vlog about it.
Yep.
We did it, guys. We've done it. We've done it once again.
We solved the memory issue.
All right, Chris, are you ready?
I am ready.
Would you rather go without electricity or running water for a week?
Ooh. Right, both are pretty important.
It's you specifically, right?
Yeah, just you.
Okay, so it's not everyone. Can I still so I guess I can still go buy water.
You can still go buy water.
Yeah, you're not gonna get dehydrated and die.
I just can't
It's running water. It's go without running water.
So I can still buy a bunch of water and take a bath that way.
Yeah.
And then not dehydrate. Electricity isn't I'd say isn't as essential as water, but since I can still get water, I don't know.
Here's how I'm looking at it. Like, in my life, I both had times where the running water has been out because of like some, water main break somewhere up the street, or, there's a power outage for like a little bit longer. And I feel like the power outage is easier to deal with. Like,
Yeah, I actually agree with that. Now they frame it like that.
like thinking about it that way,
The
like,
power outage just creates boredom.
Right.
But if you don't have running water, then you just feel bad for some. Like you can't take a shower.
what you miss more is the little things, like cleaning your dishes in the sink, brushing your teeth in the morning. Like you can get by with like you just buy a bunch of gallons of water, but it just sucks. It just sucks.
Yeah.
Also, it's gonna be if you're gonna take a bath, that's a lot of water.
Yeah, that is a lot of water. It's a lot of work too. You got to carry the water back to your home, and water is pretty heavy.
Yeah.
And you're gonna bring it all back, and you're gonna be all sweaty, and you're gonna have to immediately take your bath. And you're like, wait, shit, I needed this for Thursday.
Okay, so it sounds like we're all leaning towards living without electricity. Is there any pros to living without water over electricity?
Well, it depends on what heating system you have in your house.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, or AC in the summer.
Or AC in the summer, right? So your comfort level could be down.
But water can mitigate that a little bit if you take like a cold shower or a warm shower.
True. Do we need that's the thing with electricity? It's all about conveniences.
What is essential? You wouldn't be able to charge your phone.
Right, I was thinking about that. But I also feel like you could just not use, you don't use your phone for like emergencies, right? And you'd be fine for a week. I was trying to figure out, is this different if it's a month rather than a week?
Oh, it's super different if it's a month. I think a month with electricity. I think you run into problems like just like needing to, use your phone or laptop to just do like life things that are electronic. Because theoretically, if you're going with electricity for a week, like you shouldn't be able to go out and use other people's electricity.
Right. I'm trying to think of a reason why you would choose electricity over water.
It's funny too because I read the question. I'm like, oh, obviously you just go without running water. But now that I'm like, once I framed it, I'm like,
Well, and the weird thing is like, there's nothing you can't do. You can do everything. It's just way more annoying. So it feels like the answer should definitely be electricity, and yet it's so much more annoying.
I think electricity is more linked to just entertainment.
Yeah.
So you would get bored, but you'd still be able to do stuff. Like you'd still be able to do all your basic functions.
yeah, I mean, board games by candlelight sounds like a nice fun evening inside.
Yeah. Running water is not linked to entertainment at all.
True.
It's only linked to your basic functions.
My kitchen's all electric, so if I had a gas stove, it would be it would be easy.
Oh, if your kitchen's all electric.
Oh, what about your fridge?
Yeah.
Yeah, you lose your fridge. Does driving a car count as using electricity?
I would say no.
I'm gonna say no.
Doesn't feel like it is.
I guess
Like
technically
there's obviously
I'd say no.
there's obviously electronics in the car and that it needs electronics to work, and but I think for the purpose of this, you can't use anything plugged into an outlet, basically.
Yeah.
You can't plug anything into an outlet to charge it.
The fridge is a problem, though.
The fridge is a problem. But like, you could have like canned soup if you have a gas stove.
I mean, you could also just walk and go out and eat elsewhere.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's true, too.
Like going out, eating out for a week and, not having my work laptop charged sounds like a vacation to me.
Okay, so it's not as big as a problem as I thought it was.
Yeah, neither of these are all that big of a problem. It's just that I think that somehow not having running water is just way more annoying.
When I think about it, like running water, I guess isn't really that important if you're only missing it for a week. It would just, for some reason, it elicits a bad emotion from me, not having running water.
Yeah, definitely. I just just imagine like vacationing in a cabin in the woods without water for a week, without running water, or vacationing in a cabin without electricity. I'd like pick the electricity one every time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So weirdly, despite my initial impression, I'm on running water. I would rather have no electricity for a week.
Yeah, I think I agree.
Yes, I agree.
That was unexpected.
That's very amicable. We all agree with each other the whole time. That's uncommon.
That makes things boring.
That's okay. We'll just forget about all this tomorrow anyway. Get to run it back and see what happens the second time around. So unfortunately, not everyone forgets everything every week, so we have to keep releasing new episodes. But even if those new episodes that release each week for you guys is not enough, you can get a bonus, additional, behind-the-scenes episode every month if you go to www.patreon.com/absurdhypotheticals and subscribe for just one measly $1, which is like the price of like 1/5 of a cup of coffee nowadays. And you can, for 1/5 of the cost of your daily coffee, you can support our show and get access to our behind the scenes content. Again, every month, awesome laid back episode, cool. We talk about the episodes that we did, how we make the show, really yell at each other for answers that we didn't like back and forth. So all the stuff that you were screaming at your podcast, we probably were thinking the same things, but we're being professionally quiet about it until the behind the scenes episode. So you can go and check that out.
If you're not satisfied by us agreeing with each other during that Would You Rather, we will not agree with each other in the behind the scenes.
It's pretty much guaranteed.
Or maybe we will. Who knows?
No, we won't.
We can't agree. Which is a good way to end. Which is a good way to end. So, in any case, join us next week when we answer the following question: what if hammers were the only tool?
You would hit stuff.